Hey, church, welcome back to weekly service. I could never say enough. Honestly, we turn on the cameras, and every time we do this, it is an overwhelming sensation that I get that you are taking time in your daily life to absorb this content and learn again or revisit and rehearse again the wonderful ways of Jesus and his incredible love. More than anything, I pray in these next 25 minutes or less, you feel an overwhelming sense that you are loved wherever you are in the world. Please, if there's any way we can serve you more, be better at what we do as a community to help you follow the incredible ways of Jesus, which I love to call the better way. We're all endeavoring to live like him, to look like him, to love like him. But frankly, the ultimate goal of life is to actually accept and receive his extraordinary, unearned love. I pray it just saturates you today. I really do, like a sponge. You just absorb it. He loves you and he is working for your good. Hey, if you're just joining us, this is actually part 4. We have done now, when we're done with this, we'll do 4 treatments or 4 talks or messages from what we call Romans chapter 8. If you're familiar at all with the letter to Roman Christians thousands of years ago, it is one of the great works in all writings ever to exist. In fact, the great reformer Martin Luther believed that Romans 8 was the synopsis. It was the most concise and clear communication of the good news about Jesus and all that he's done. By way of review, bear with me if this is a little bit redundant or unnecessary, but we started Romans 8 and verse 1 talking about condemnation and how there is zero, none. Jesus took all the shame and all the guilt. Then we moved on to Romans 8 and verse 18, where we talked about destination, how the revelation of I'm not home yet, but I will be, will give you a sense of endurance. Then we jumped all the way to verse 28, where we talked about orchestration, how God, like a conductor of an orchestra, is working even the painful, difficult things in your life together for your good. Now we're going to end. I love it. We honestly didn't intend it like this, but we started verse 1, verse 18, verse 28, and now we will end with verse 38 and verse 39. And what are we talking about today? We're talking about separation. We started with no condemnation. We went on to talk about remember the destination, consider his orchestration. And then whatever you do, don't forget there is no separation. Separation is an interesting concept. As I sit here, it has been, I believe, more than 12 years that I have been separated from my hero. Other than Jesus himself, my dad, who I named my middle son after, Wendell Eugene Smith, passed from this life into eternity, that destination that Romans 8:18 speaks of, and he's been there. And so it has been, like I said, more than a decade that I have been without my earthly father. And that separation is painful. In fact, some of you, and I do not want this in my life, but parents whose kids move away, God bless you, right? I think about my own kids and they're growing up. We're 19, 17, and 14. And I'm like, oh no, they're going to move out. Like they're going to move away from me. And just that distance, that separation in linear time and space can bring pain. Kind of leaves a gap and a hole. And I more than anything, my agenda for these next few minutes is to remind you, to prove to you, to show you that not only is there no condemnation, which is how Romans 8 starts, but it ends with no separation. In other words, there's no gap. There's no space between you and God. Did you know that? I got such good news, man. Now, if you grew up in church like me, no disrespect, no shade. I love the church. I love preachers like me, my own kind. God help us. But we made things like head coverings and gum and certain words kind of the end-all, be-all of Christianity. Don't wear a hat, have some respect, don't use a cuss or a curse, don't smoke, don't chew, don't watch rated R movies. And, some of those things might be really beneficial, and God might ask you to not participate in some of those things. And listen, I'm not here to debate or argue those, but I assure you that is not the overwhelming emphasis of the way of Jesus and the teachings of Jesus. The overwhelming emphasis is not on your morality, it's on his love. Your greatest evidence of your faith in God and relationship with God is not your transformed lifestyle and your buttoned up life and your manicured hair and your perfect vernacular, and the doors you hold open for people. All of those things are wonderful. I don't mean to make light or little of them, but that is not the essence or proof or indication of your relationship with God. It's love. Because he loves you so much, he allows no separation. So I want to read to you Romans chapter 8, verses 38 and 39. Listen to this. I am sure, Paul says, that neither death nor life, nor angels or rulers, nor things present, nor things to come, nor powers, nor height, nor depth, nor anything else in all of creation will be able to separate us from the love of God in Jesus Christ, who is King, God, and Lord. Wow. Think about it. I'm sure that neither, look at this list, death, life, angels, rulers, things present, things to come, powers, height, depth, nor anything else not in the list will be able to separate us from the love of God. I assure you that list is comprehensive for a reason. The climactic conclusion to Romans chapter 8 is your performance, good, bad, lacking, or extraordinary, is not powerful enough to separate you, not just from God, but from his love and adoration for you. Now, feelings come and feelings go, and they are deceiving. And so oftentimes we feel a million miles away from God. Sometimes I feel like I am more distant from my heavenly Father than I am from my earthly father who passed from this earth several years ago. You ever felt like that? You ever felt like you're just talking to yourself when you pray? You ever felt like there is no chance in heaven or hell or on earth that God is close to me? I mean, I am not, I'm not close worthy. I don't deserve proximity from a perfect God. But I assure you, God's proximity, God's closeness is not based on your performance. It's based on the performance of Jesus. I want to remind you, it says, nothing will be able to separate us from the love of God that has been revealed in Jesus. Which is to say, Jesus revealed to us how the love of God works. The love of God works through the performance of Jesus. The love of God does not work in your life through your performance. The perfect performance of Jesus on the cross knew no sin, became sin. He declares it is finished. The earth shakes. The curtain in the temple is torn in two. Dead people come out of graves. All of it is a sign and a signal and a testimony that Jesus has done for humanity and earth itself what we could not do for ourselves. You will never again, please hear me, have any distance between you and God. Judah, are you saying, I'll always hear God? I'll always feel God? I'll always have that warm fuzzy? I'll always feel like he's holding me, embracing me, kissing me, affirming me? No, I hope so. But that's not what I said. I didn't say that you'll always feel that there's no separation. A moment ago, I admitted, and I will continue to admit this, there are chapters and seasons, and sometimes the days turn into a couple of days. It's rarer and rarer because as you accept this and believe this, I think you will experience it even more. But I assure you, he will never leave you nor forsake you. He is not far. In fact, one of the greatest evidences of no separation is that even when Adam and Eve first erred and first sinned and ate of the one tree they couldn't, when there was thousands that they could, because we always obsess over the one thing we can't and miss out on all the things that we can, right? Because that's the way our human nature works. And they ate from the forbidden fruit, as it's been called. Their eyes are open. They're in a sinful state for the very first time. There is some now inconsistencies with God. And yet the scripture says in the Torah, in the first few verses of what we call the Bible, that God came walking in the cool of the day. So even at our worst, God comes near. Evidence of that seems to confront us very early in the biblical narrative. At your worst, he's near. At your best, he's near. In your indifference, he's near. In your dismissiveness, he's here. He's near and he's here. In your arrogance, he's near. In your brokenness, he's near. In the dark night of your soul, please hear me, Churchome, he is near. The Bible says that evidently the manifestation of his nearness seems to be most apparent and obvious when we are broken in our heart. When he says he's near to the brokenhearted, by no means is he saying those who are whole in heart will have separation. No, he's simply saying those who are, in fact, at their weakest, at their weariest, at their most broken, he will manifest his nearness and proximity, I think, in ways that our pain almost necessitates. He's a good father. He's the father, in Luke 15, who ran towards the son who had wasted his entire inheritance, covered him in new clothes and got him jewelry and put on the best filet mignon on the grill and called his friends and family members and threw a party for a son who, frankly, had lived selfishly and wastefully. This is who God is. Imagine with me for a moment, seriously, what would the rest of your life look like if you were convinced that you'll never have another day on earth separate from God? That he will always show up for you? I've done therapy, met with therapists, have counselors and therapists in my life. It's helpful. I'm so grateful for professionals who understand the brain and the science and the molecular structure of the humans, and they help you process pain and loss and good times and high times and low times. And I'm really, really grateful. But there's this term, in therapy, like you got to do the work. And then there's this other term that says, hey, you got to show up for your loved one. I got good news for you. Jesus has done the work. And he always shows up with his full self and full help for his children and for his kids. Hey, listen, he's done the work, and he always shows up for his kids. He'll always show up for you. He'll always be there. Maybe you're in an extended season and chapter where you have somewhat convinced yourself that God has not shown up for you. God is not near to you. God is a million miles away. The overwhelming evidence of Romans chapter 8. In fact, I would implore you to read Romans 8 in an extraordinary and unusual way. And that is, as you start Romans chapter 8 and verse 1, you could do this maybe even today if you have a minute or a moment, or listen to the audio version on the Bible app, listen to the audio and think in terms of no separation. Read the entire chapter 8 with this idea that maybe, perhaps, Paul in this chapter is trying to drive home one primary concept, and that is that there is no separation, there is no window, there's no gap, and there's no space between you and God. He is near to you as your next heartbeat and your next breath. Inhale, exhale. He's there, and he's with you. The Passion Translation translates those same words, and it starts at the beginning of the verse. It says, now I live with the confidence that there is nothing in the universe with the power to separate me or us from God's love. I am convinced his love will triumph over in the list. I'm convinced and confidence and conviction. What if you live the rest of your life with those two aspects, confident and convicted? Confidence is that assurance in a practical level. He's with me. He's with me. Conviction is it's something that I believe is in fact eternally true and proven. And what are you convinced and what are you convicted of? Of the nearness and proximity of his love and the person of God with you wherever you go. Some of the climactic moments in the New Testament that we see, one would be the Great Commission. God says, go into all the world, tell everybody my story, everywhere you go. And then it says, lo, I am with you always, even to the end of the age. I'm with you always, even to the end of the age. Do you believe he's with you always? You know, God can be with you always. But if you don't accept it, or if you believe that your lack of moral behavior eclipses the performance of Jesus, you'll start to accept something that is a lie. It's a falsehood. It's untrue. It's deception. That there's now space between me and God. Separation can be toxic. Separation can be painful. I felt separation. You felt separation. Think of the things that result due to separation. Suddenly you feel exposed. You just feel exposed, right? There's no one there to protect. I played quarterback in high school. I don't want to brag. Sophomore team. We won a lot of games. I threw for 700 yards in the whole season and 7 touchdowns. But our offensive line, how should I say, left me exposed a lot, right? I mean, the defenders came through and I got sacked a lot in the backfield. Forgive me for my Western world football example, but it hurt. Separation sometimes can hurt because you feel exposed. You just feel exposed. No one's covering. No one's protecting. No one's keeping. You ever had this thought? Who's advocating for me in this world? Who's going to bat for me? Maybe you're like, I got to hire an attorney or a lawyer I'll just pay him just to have them affirm that they're going to go to bat for me. They're going to fight for me. They're going to defend me. They're going to protect me. But make no mistake, Romans 8 climactic conclusion is that you have an advocate. You have a protector. You have someone who's not just there playing defense. You have someone in your corner playing offense who's going out into the world with you to advocate for your talents, your abilities, your plan, your purpose, and the part you play in his grand plan on earth. Separation makes you feel exposed. Separation sometimes can make you feel empty, or in other words, lonely. You feel alone? Loneliness, they say, is more detrimental to the psyche and the physical makeup of a human being than smoking incessantly cigarettes and cigars. I think the Surgeon General released that a few years ago in our country, that loneliness is more detrimental to your health than cigarettes. Think about it. And yet we live in an era and an age where it seems that your loneliness and mine is at an all-time high. Ever had that feeling where it's January, maybe you went to some Christmas parties or holiday parties over the season that was last month, and it's the most wonderful time of the year. It's supposed to be the jolly season, and maybe you went to some of those jolly parties and felt more alone than you did when you were home by yourself. You can be surrounded by followers on social media and yet feel acutely alone in this world. There is now, therefore, no condemnation, Romans 8 starts with. But I want to remind you it ends with, and there is now, therefore, no separation. You're not alone at that party. You're not alone in life. You're not alone on that path. You're not alone. Now, some of you, maybe loneliness is not your challenge, but I would venture to say that at some point in your path, your plan, your purpose, you will find yourself wondering, is this what loneliness feels like? And it's in those moments that I have found an overwhelming knowledge and connection with the shepherd, the king, Jesus, who promised that absolutely nothing, angels, rulers, life, death, present, past, powers, anything in all creation would be able to separate me from his love. You know, separation in this natural life, you can feel exposed, you can feel empty. And then I've noticed you can also feel expended, right? What I mean by that is you feel like you're always giving, giving, and it's just outflow and there's no inflow. Like, who's close to me? We live in a faith community. You know, this is Churchome. We exist not just to be a content dispenser, but a framework and a structure to foster real, deep, meaningful spiritual relationship. And yet, sometimes in a community just like this, we can always be the one asking, how you doing? How you doing? Hey, you good? You ever had one of those chapters where it seems like you ask everybody else how they're doing? Everybody else if they're okay? And it's as if no one seems to reciprocate. And it's not that you keep track, but eventually it just dawns on you one day like, man, all those people I check in with, they hadn't really checked in with me. They hadn't really made sure I'm okay. And all of a sudden you just feel like you give, and you come to what some call a breaking point. I can't give anymore, bro. I'm exhausted. When is there inflow? When is there virtue that is returned? When is there that care and concern? The great psalmist, King David, wrote in his poem that we now call Psalms 23. He says he's a good shepherd, God, that is, and he makes his sheep lie down in lush green pastures, which is to say this God with this extensive, eternal, endless love cares for his kids and his children, and he makes them rest. He makes them eat. He makes them receive, not just give. The first posture of the believer is not standing and walking and talking and doing. It's sitting and receiving. But when you feel like God's a million miles away, you feel compelled, don't you, or I do, to get up and go find him. Work. Try. Do better. I got to quit having bad thoughts. I got to quit thinking about myself. I got to go give. And then in an effort to find God, I can't even find the local Starbucks, let alone God, but we do it, right? We try to go find God. We expend until suddenly it's bankruptcy of the soul. And all of a sudden people want to withdraw and you got nothing to give and you're exhausted. I know that's a weird thing to say at the beginning of a new year, but it might be the best time to say it. At the outset of a new year, where maybe by the time part 4 airs, we're now at the end of January, venturing into the second month of the year, and maybe you've done some incredible commitments for the new year. In our culture, we call them New Year's resolutions. Not entirely my favorite thing we've instituted in our culture, but, to each his own. Do more workouts, more this, and we kind of focus on all the amazing things we're going to do. And I'm telling you where I think more of the power is focusing on all the amazing things God does for you. What if at the beginning of the year you were willing to admit that you're spent? You're exhausted. I can't keep this up. Now, if you're in my line of work, this sermon's probably mostly for you. There's some community leaders out there, some people who work for nonprofits and are out there in the mix trying to make a difference in culture and society and communities and neighborhoods. People who have run for offices to make a difference. People like teachers and people who work for the governments and people who work for all kinds of social constructs to do good, and not in any way that you are better or I'm better than others. But that line of work seems to kind of overtly say, you got to give, 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 give. What happens when our community leaders don't have any more to give? Where will they find strength? Where will they find energy? Where will they be rejuvenated? Where will they find refreshment? I believe it's here. I live with the confidence, Paul says. I'm convinced that his love will triumph over all of these things that seek to lie to me and tell me, my God, my King, my shepherd, my provider, my protector, my Father is far from me. He is not. What if you spent the rest of 2024 convinced there's no condemnation? I'm on my way to an eternal destination. All the crazy, wonky things in my life will be divinely orchestrated. And lastly, but certainly not least, there is no gap between me and God. There is no separation with my shepherd. My Savior is as close to me as I can possibly comprehend. And he promises he'll never leave me nor forsake me. I'll leave you with this one exercise, and I shudder to do that because oftentimes sermons like this turn into, okay, what do I do? What do I do? And yet this sermon is predicated on the idea that you got to stop doing so much and you got to start receiving all that he's done for you. He is near to you not because of your performance. Therefore, he won't remove his nearness based on your performance because that's not why he's there in the first place. He's near to you because of his performance and his love, which is perfect, finished, and has no end. But here's the practice that I urge you to consider for the rest of 2024, and that is holding God to a promise just like this. I do it all the time, almost daily right now in my life. Hey, God, you promised you'd show up for me. You promised you'd show up for me. Imagine someone you've done therapy with saying, hey, I'm gonna always be there for you. I'm gonna show up for you. And imagine you get the feeling that they're not. I want you to tell them the truth. In this case, it's God. Hey, you said you'd show up for me. So on this Monday, on this Sunday, on this Thursday afternoon, I need you to show up for me. And one thing I love about God is he gets a kick out of that. He loves when his children hold him to being the Father he is and always promises to be. There is now, therefore, no condemnation. And proof that there is no shame is that there is also no separation. He is near, he is dear, and he is guiding, leading, protecting, and providing. I don't know what 2024 holds. I hope it holds all your wildest dreams coming true. But I make you a commitment and a promise that is the leader or the lead communicator of Churchome, which is my official title. I got a confidence right now that I hope you're drafting off of. The same confidence Paul wrote with, I speak with. I am confident that there is nothing in this universe that can separate you from the love of God. I am convinced of that fact, and I believe it can change the rest of your day. As this ends in 30 seconds, and you're done with this episode, I believe the rest of your day can transform as you absorb and accept the confidence and conviction that there's no space, no gap, and no separation between you and your wonderful Heavenly Father. Let me pray for you. God, thank you. Thank you for Romans 8. Thank you for the book. But oh God, thank you for you. It all points to you, Jesus. You are wonderful and you are extraordinary. I think of so many people watching this right now who feel exposed, who feel empty, who feel expended. Remind them that you're the provider and the protector and the pathway maker. and you have never moved away or allowed gap or distance with them. Right now, presence of Jesus, thank you. Lastly, if you're watching this and you want to accept the forgiveness that only Jesus offers, just say, I accept him. And you'll never be the same. I love you, church. Cannot wait for next time we're together, next weekly service. Thanks for watching. Let us know if we can do anything for you. Pastor Chat is alive and well as we speak right now, and there's somebody waiting to talk with you, converse with you, and connect with you. I love you.
This is the air I breathe. This is the air I breathe. Your holy presence living in me. This is my daily bread. This is my daily bread. Your very word spoken to me, and I'm desperate for you. And I'm lost without you. And I'm desperate for you. And I'm lost without you. And how I live for the moments where I'm still in your presence. All the noise dies down. Lord, speak to me now. You have all my attention. I will linger and listen. I can't miss a thing. And Lord, I know my heart wants more of you. My heart wants something new, so I surrender all. And all I want is to live within your love, be undone by who you are. My desire is to know you deeper. Lord, I will open up again, throw my fears into the wind. I am desperate for a touch of heaven. Whoa, 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 whoa. You're the fire in the morning. You're the cool in the evening. The breath in my soul. You're the life in my bones. my heart to you now. So do what only you can. Jesus, have your way in me now. I open up my heart to you. I open up my heart to you now. So do what only you can. Jesus, have your way in me now. So I is to live within your love, be undone by who you are. My desire is to know you deeper, Lord. I will open up again, throw my fears into the wind. I am desperate for a touch of yes, to live within your love, be undone by who you are. My desire is to know you deeper. I will open up again, throw my fears into the wind. I am desperate for a touch.